Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. One of the things that I notice about beginners, particularly in striking, punching and kicking type arts, is when they're first starting, they get used to a specific distance where they constantly throw and make impact. So, it's not always fully extended. Let's say, for example, with punches, they're not always fully extended. Maybe they kind of have it bent a little bit, or maybe they are fully extended and that's what they're used to. Or some people just kind of like to stay up really close to the bag and throw their straight shots from there. But there gets a point where they just kind of get used to throwing their power shots from the same distance all the time. And it's such that when they get into a situation where they're not throwing at that distance, maybe their target is a little bit further away than that distance that they are used to throwing, or a little bit closer, that they don't adjust for that. They just don't get to throw that punch with as much effectiveness because it's no longer in that kind of distance that they've been practicing for so long. And one of the things that I encourage to help with that, and this is something that I do with my training as well, is to get used to things moving. So for example, from working on a heavy bag, just get that bag swinging, get it moving around so that it's always going to have a different range, not only in terms of, what you're able to control with your range, but also, it's going to be swing on its own. You're going to have to adjust to that. So now you're forced to throw, say, the same punch over and over, but now it's, you force yourself to throw it at different ranges. So if it's not in that range that you're used to throwing at, maybe it's a little bit closer, maybe it's a little bit further. Well, now you learn to adjust so that, okay, I can throw with just as much speed and power at a different distance than I'm used to practicing at. So that's something that it just takes a bit of time to get used to. And what you're doing effectively is increasing the dynamic effectiveness of your strikes, so that you don't always have to rely on your opponent or your target being at a specific distance all the time. And you think, wow, that's where I need them to be so that I can throw an effective shot. No, regardless of where they are, you get used to throwing at any distance so that you can still throw an effective shot at the time. So that's one thing you kind of, just kind of grind through, you get used to, and it just takes reps, it takes time, it takes rounds on the bag, or even, with a live training partner to be able to get that feel into your body so that you have more comfort in your strikes at most distances, right? But one of the things that I also like to work on with my classes is not only getting used to grinding or working through the different distances that are presented to you, so kind of just get used to it that way, but you can also do two other things. One is that you can move your target, like physically move your target. So instead of having to get used to and live with the ranges that your target is giving you, physically move your target. Like push, if you're working with a bag or a sparring partner, you can actually push them or redirect them so that now they're at a more ideal distance for you to throw the exact same shot. Right? So a lot of times people get stuck in, okay, well, I've just got to grind through or deal with what's presented to me. And this is an exercise where I tell them, well, no, that's one of the options that's available to you. So let's say, for example, you're throwing a jab cross and then a roundhouse kick, right? Well, a lot of times if you're coming in on your opponent, that jab cross will hit, but then you're so close now, especially if your punches, that jab cross did not push your opponent backwards, they're still at the same place that they were. If you're coming in, now that's kind of short for you to throw that roundhouse in, right? So as opposed to trying to do the best with what you've got there, okay, let me see what, if I can just kind of muscle through or power through finishing off with this roundhouse, given the less than ideal distances that I have with in relation to my opponent. Instead of that, just say, hey, I'll do my jab cross. If they didn't move, those punches didn't move them back, I'm just going to push them back, so that now that target is in a more ideal distance for that kick to land, right? So you can actually affect the target, right? The second option is that you can adjust yourself, right? So same situation here. Let's say you throw that jab cross roundhouse, but instead of moving your opponent, so there may be a situation, right, where maybe they're bigger than you, maybe just, you're not able to affect your target so that it moves effectively, or it moves without disrupting too much into that ideal situation, right? Well, how about this? Instead of you moving your target, you move yourself, so that now it's not so much that you move the target, but you move yourself further away, in this case, from the target, so that you can make that effective strike. So again, back to the scenario. You throw a jab cross. Well, you notice that your opponent did not move backwards. Well, now what you can do is kind of step back, and then you can throw that roundhouse. So now you've moved yourself into that ideal situation. Sometimes it's moving back. Sometimes it's stepping off to the side. So now you have that more ideal distance, so you can have more. You can land a more effective shot. So that is what you are able to do. Those three things. One is that you can kind of just grind and do the best that you can with what is presented to you, which is always an option, right? The second is that you can adjust your target, adjust what is presented to you, what's in front of you, so that it becomes, if not ideal for you, at least giving you a better, an improved situation, right? Is that you move that target. The third is that you adjust yourself, right? If for some reason the target is not moving, your opponent is not moving, then what can you do to put yourself in a better situation? Now, this is something that I try to apply not only on the mat, but also outside, right? Because there are times when, I'm presented with a particular situation, there are circumstances that I have in front of me, and sometimes I've just got to do the best that I can. I just kind of grind through the situation as it is, right? Maybe I just don't have the awareness to be able to do anything other than that. Right? Kind of like, just cultivate the grit inside me to power through. There are times, however, though, that I can do the second thing, which is, okay, let me adjust the situation as it is right now. Okay, let me affect the thing that is out there. So say, for example, if I am at a Starbucks doing work or something, right? And somebody is really, really loud behind me. Well, it could be such that, I kind of just power through, just whatever their ruckus is. Or I could actually go up to them and say, hey, would you mind just kind of keeping it down a bit, right? So that's, whether they do it or not, that's, ideally they do something, at least they bring it down a bit, if not just be completely quiet, right? But that's something where I can look to affect that thing outside, right? The thing that opponent, that circumstance that's presented to me. And third thing is that I can adjust myself. So in that particular instance, again, if someone's being really loud, I could just remove myself from the situation, right? It's not such that I have to do anything to that person. or, try to do anything other than like, you know what, I'm just going to remove myself from this situation entirely and just continue with what I really wanted to do anyway, which is get some work done in a quiet environment, right? Obviously this place wasn't quiet enough. Let me just move myself, right? So I know sometimes that is a challenge, right? To see that there are multiple ways that you can approach a situation, right? But that's something I think that can be useful if you have the self-awareness to remind yourself that, there may be other options available to you. Anyway, folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter Podcast. We'll talk to you next time.